Welcome to Season 3 of The Lifestyle Chase, and I'm your host, Chris Little. This podcast features high performers who have found a way to live their best life while balancing their health, wellness, friends, and family. To help this podcast grow, please share it on social media, rate 5 stars, tell your friends, and check out the past 140 episodes and counting. You can follow me on Instagram at Christian Little and at The Lifestyle Chase. Thanks for listening. Let's get started. All right, so welcome to The Lifestyle Chase. I am joined by the one and only Dean Guedo / just jacked dude in a stringer tee.
No one says that.
This is episode 170, and this is your third appearance on The Lifestyle Chase. Your first one was episode 3, September 19th, 2018. Second one was episode 113, almost exactly a year ago, April 13th, 2020. And we kind of talked about the pandemic a little bit. So it's just kind of cool to see where we're at today. It's April 15th, 2021. How are you doing? Tell me a bit more about this thing you're doing right now. You're walking on a treadmill while you're on a podcast.
Yeah, I want to address the first thing. It's it doesn't even seem like a year. Partially because we just talked whatever 2 days ago. You came over to the backyard, socially distanced completely. It was totally legal. It actually was. I know people will say that with quotations. It was literally as legal as humanly possible. But yeah, it doesn't seem like that long ago. Even the first one. But what am I doing now? I'm walking. Yeah, I'm at this phase, and I know we're gonna talk about it a little bit later with being a dad. I don't care anymore. So it's I'm on a walking treadmill. I use it for work, and I try to get my steps in. And my main thing that I talk to people about, just because I'm a nutrition coach and I work for a company called Strong U, is yeah, you got to get your steps in and all this crap. And it was total bullshit in the sense that I was super inactive the second COVID hit because I was only online at that point. It's super cold here, and I had 2,000 steps, and I'm man, I'm still full of shit. And so this was a modern day solution to a modern day problem of inactivity, generally starting from having jobs that are sedentary. Nothing we could do. We need to make money, but this was my way of hacking that for nutrition and wellness purposes. And it's been the best change ever. As much as I hate talking about treadmills and walking on it, because I hate cardio and I don't hate walking, but it's just weird. But I'm that guy now. So I'm less of a jacked guy in a stringer. I still wear the stringer, but now I walk on a treadmill. So a lot of that identity of being jacked is totally out the window now.
So do you have a standing desk there, or what's the setup for your computer or whatever?
Yeah, I would show you, but I'm in my underwear.
Probably.
I guess it's really just standing desks treadmill desks are really expensive. So when I looked into how do I have this, I saw with my sister-in-law, she's yeah, I just got a treadmill and I put a piece of wood on it. I'm yeah, well, I have a iMac, 2 monitors, or I have an iMac plus a monitor, it's 27-inch iMac, and then I have stuff. I had podcast stuff that you now have, and I have microphones, and anyways, I was a piece of wood isn't going to cut it. That's super scary. And so, yeah, I looked online and $3,000 to get to Canada for a treadmill desk. It's literally a treadmill and a desk.
So is that what you got? An actual legit? Okay.
No, I was I'm not, could I afford that? Possibly. Could I live with myself for paying that much? No, absolutely not. I have other stuff to put my money into. But I converted an old, this is how cheap I am. Converted an old, we live in an older house now. We downsized probably since last time, or maybe the first time. Anyways, an old closet door, and I put mechanical legs on it, electric legs on it. You can basically part it out, and that costs $200 because the legs are $200. You buy it all put together, it's $600. It cost me $200, and then I just bought a Costco, essentially a walking treadmill, and I just put it underneath. And I'm there's my walking desk for under $1,000.
That's legit.
Company who's taking advantage of it, but yeah,
you kind of inspired me. I might have to do a setup like that because getting steps is pretty important, and it's something that if it could be a bit more convenient, that would be nice, because like I've just found myself going to the park and just going, I basically go from Gold Bar to Strathcona Science Park and back, and it's a long walk and it takes a while, and if I could like integrate that into like my work on the computer, that would be ideal.
Well, and it's like the integration piece that's huge. Like I'm not like, so like I deal in nutrition and I deal with clients, and like the walking piece is like helpful. They can eat more food, they can be more active, yada yada yada. That wasn't my thing. Like I don't have, like I'm not dieting. It was more of like a feeling thing, like just getting in the hip extension, and like just a lot of my injuries was from like sedentary behavior, and I felt bad. I don't feel as good as walking outside, obviously, but there was a hack here, and the point of it is that I can't get around it because it sits under my desk, and my desk isn't a laptop; it's an iMac. It's plugged into the wall, and like I have a fold-up treadmill, like so it folds up. And I was like, yeah, I'll pull it out when I get tired, and I'll just like put because I have the electric desk and you can use the motorized function, and that never happened because like it's a pain in the ass to like re-level it, and so it's an automatic thing now. Now if I'm working, I'm on here, and it's like, wow, I'm at 12,000 steps, and I got like another hour of work left. I guess I'm walking more, and so it's been like in terms of all the other stuff that it's helpful for, which I don't care about, I'm getting automatically just because I can't get around it. So in terms of habit formation, it's great because it's a big pain in the ass to move.
Well, it's just funny. It's like you got to send an email. It's like, shit, I got to walk like a kilometer while I send this email. Like, that's kind of funny.
Well, there's ways around it. I have a laptop, but yeah, like for the most part, it's like, and I wanted it that way because I know, like, for human personality, I'm going to take the easiest route to get the thing that I want done. And like, I'm very much like that, like 100%. And so that really screwed me up. And I was even trying to get around that by buying a foldable treadmill. And little did I know, it's way more effort than I'm really willing to do. So the steps are happening regardless.
Awesome. So I was listening to our last episode. And so like the last episode was when you're in your new place. Like I came and I helped you move. So it was kind of cool to be part of like the whole experience of like taking the adjustable dumbbells like up and down stairs and like the platform and all that stuff. And it's like to see all these different phases and changes and stuff. And for anybody that like wants that perspective, like go back and listen to episode 3, because it was like right after like the gym that we worked together kind of was about to shut down. And then episode 113, you were coming back from Costa Rica, and I heard this part, and you were like, God forbid that COVID lasts more than 3 months. And then I just burst out laughing. I was like, we had no idea like what was going to happen. And so like, what are 3 things that you kind of were enlightened on since that moment? Like since realizing like this is kind of more of a long haul than anything else.
Yeah. Like, and for anyone listening, this isn't pre-planned. I'm like thinking like, fuck, I got to come up with 3 things. There's a million, but like, yeah, like things changed a lot for me too during that time. I know we'll probably talk about it, but like Andrew got pregnant, like I got back from Costa Rica, and like, I don't know if I knew when we did that podcast. When did we do the podcast? It was April. I definitely knew. Maybe we found it after that. I don't think we knew at that point. When we found out, it was like, oh, COVID's happening for real. And so I changed a lot of things regardless of COVID. But the main thing was like, now I'm living life for someone else. And I was like a lot more, I guess, regardless of the information out there, I was a lot more risk adverse. And it's hard. It's not necessarily hard, but it's you have to, if you're looking to be risk adverse, it's tough when it's like you don't know what everyone else is doing. And COVID really highlighted that, because like, oh damn, like at that point there's like no one really knew what was going on. So you had to be super risk averse. So it's just weird. One of the main things was just like seeing how people don't trust people. I know it's a weird thing, but like you go to the grocery store and it's like you're like, oh, like what's this person been doing? I don't know if that's something I learned. But it's like interesting to see the dynamics at play. And then just understanding where you fall there and like what your priorities are. So like really the first thing would be like, it really gets people to figure out their priorities, whatever that was. And for me, it was at that point, kid and being safe. And then how do you be safe? You wash your hands. You would do all this stuff. And I'm like, man, I never did any of that. Like I'm the asshole who like didn't wash my hands. My wife's probably listening and be like, what the hell? But yeah. What was specifically the question? Because like now I'm gonna go and forget because
Honestly, you covered a lot of bases there. Like one thing that's common with our interviews together is we tend to go off on tangents and like open up sidebars, and that's totally fine.
Well, it's a hard question. That's why I literally that's my way of getting around like answering three big things since then. Because I can answer this. I'll do it like simply without being an asshole. Being outside and getting like physical activity was something that I knew was important, but I was doing. And until that's taken away, and you're like, you can't do this thing. You're like, oh, well, what else can I do? And you're like, oh, I can't do that because that's close. Oh, I can't do this. This is close. I can't go for dinner with my friends. The value of just simple things like walking in the sun, we kind of talked about, was like something that I don't think I'll ever let go now, because now the simplicity is something that we don't have to pay for, and I would have, and it actually aligned with my goals because I'm super cheap, and I'm like, oh, this is way better. It's free, and it's been right here the whole time. Crazy world we live in. So that would be number 2.
That makes sense.
And then number 3 is that once you're Netflix doesn't have that many good shows. It seems like it does, but it like I get how they get you now. They have something kind of recurring every 3 months. But when you watch all the stuff that you kind of caught up on, there's nothing good for 2 or 3 months. And then you're just waiting. And I'm like, damn, that's how they get you. But now with COVID, they need more shows. So that would be my third thing.
Well, my biggest thing was I made like the commitment to myself that I wasn't going to watch Tiger King. I'm not going to let them like bring me in. I'm just going to stay outside and not understand it. Like I haven't even watched The Mandalorian. I just like I go to YouTube and I search Baby Yoda and I watch the highlights. But nonetheless, like when you first realize you're going to be a dad, like what was that like for you? I'd imagine it was kind of something that was sort of like in your plans. You don't accidentally just become a dad, but like,
well, people do, but
yeah,
I don't accidentally do shit.
But what was like your initial reaction?
My initial reaction was, it was like 4:30 in the morning. So I don't know why she got up at 4:30, but she was like, I'm pregnant. I'm like, yeah, okay. Like, sure. She's like, no, I am. I'm like, oh, like this is real. And then, so I couldn't get back to sleep. So that kind of sucked, but it was like a really cool moment. Cause it was like, I won't forget that. Cause it wasn't just like, it was like literally abruptly waking up at 4:30. I say abruptly, she was nice about it, but I was like, why are you waking me up? And then she's like, this is like big news. And so my initial reaction was like, I was super pumped because like we'd been trying for a while. And so it was like, timing wise, I think it was perfect. It ended up being perfect, but it was a lot. Because it was like, at that point, we would have just finished our podcast talking about, oh, hopefully COVID doesn't last any longer than 3 months. And then like, oh, like the world is changing. So like, what does that look like? I wasn't planning on dealing with this shit. And so that would have been my first thing. My second thing was this is a cool story. And I think it's cool, but like no one might think it's cool, but I remember it vividly. And I think I told you, it's like I stopped like caring about strength training and deadlifting heavy. And so that day found out whatever, we're pregnant. And like I'd been working up to try to hit like a 750 pound deadlift. Like it was just kind of something I had in my mind. I wanted to beat my PR and do it conventional without a belt and whatever. Like that day was the worst training session ever. And I was like, I don't like really care about this. And I just like cold turkey didn't deadlift after that. Like I haven't deadlifted since, other than like I was trying some technique stuff, but I haven't deadlifted since, and it's been like great. But it was the thought of like, oh, like, if I keep going after these crazy strength tools, I'm gonna be super fucked up. And if I'm super fucked up, I probably can't like do stuff with my kid. And I just refuse. Like I said, I plan to have this kid, and I plan to be around. And so, like, I don't want that to suck for them. And so, like, it was weird because like the whole thing kind of shifted almost instantaneously. Because anyone who knows me, it was like, what? You stopped deadlifting? I'm like, yeah, like done, completely done. So that was the second thing. That was like two monumental things, and that I remember that vividly. And that was that one day. And so there's a huge shift in like priorities within like a 12-hour stretch. Because I still thought I could do it. I was like, yeah, I'll be fine. And then the deadlift, I was like, yeah, no, like I'm scared of like breaking my back, and I'm scared anyways on a good day. And now I'm like real scared. And so I was like, yeah, it's not worth it. So that was my long-winded monumental moment of phase shifting or whatever.
Well, I mean, like anybody that knows you and has followed you, like it's almost hard to take you seriously when you say that you stopped deadlifting, and in the best way, because it's like your identity. And it's like
absolutely.
the number of podcasts that are on the internet where you have a 700-pound deadlift, like that it's made clear. But
yeah, you can lead with that.
With that being said, it's pretty realistic to have that like pointed out, because like kind of my weird vision for like the fitness industry is for people to actually be able to like live normal lives while being in the fitness industry. So like growing a family, going on vacations, not being like that sleazy business coach in front of the Ferrari, like actually being like realistic people and like being able to advance and like scale up in such a way that like when you're 60, you have a comfortable living and you're not still doing like one-on-one training sessions, 40 hours a week kind of thing. With that being said, with how you stopped deadlifting, like what did you replace it with? Like, did you, aside from walking, like what did you start doing and why did you start doing it?
Yeah, like I know you already know the answer. This is a great question. They usually say it's like, oh, and then I repeat the question like, oh, what did I do? Honestly, at the moment, I just replaced it with training that wasn't like risky. Not that it's risky, but like anyone who's like delved in like high level strength sports is like, it's not safe and it's not good for you. Like there's no like redeeming factors of it. It's like getting strong has a complete cost and it's super risky. And so what I did was I did things that were less risky. Like I just stopped deadlifting just because I knew if I didn't stop deadlifting, my knee pain and stuff that I've been dealing with for years, just from surgeries and football, I knew weren't going to get better with deadlifting because it's like that's the one thing I like to do, and if I do it, like all gloves are off. It's like I don't give a shit what happens, even if it hurts. And I was like, I can't be around that, even if it's like 400 pounds. It's like if someone was around me and they're like, oh, like how much do you lift? Like let's put on more weight. Like this is just like get this done. Or if I'm like around people in Costa Rica, they're all deadlifting. Like I'm gonna go deadlift and I'm gonna try to win. And it's a bad look, so I stopped it. But what did I replace it with? It was more hypertrophy training. Like I just cut out stuff that hurt, which sounds like super screwed up. But like stuff that I had been attached ego-wise to, I kind of just tried to cut out all that stuff, which didn't leave much. So at that point, what did I do? It was almost, that would have been March. I just did everything the same except for I didn't deadlift and I didn't bench with an arch. So not much. And then I adjusted some stuff and then I replaced it with jiu-jitsu 100%. And so that's when I pretty much stopped lifting. Now I can maintain muscle mass on certain odd things, but I replaced it with something else, which is probably just as risky and just as unsafe, but it's not like I'm not attached to it in the same way, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. Like, with regards...
all the stuff I'm attached to.
With regards go ahead.
Sorry, I'm going to cut you off because I was like, I didn't explain myself right, but I cut out all the stuff that I was super attached to because it's like, oh, like I know people talk about ego and all this stuff, but I was like, if I'm attached to it, I'm just going to get rid of it because like I know that's the hard thing to do. And I was like, I wonder how I'll be if I do that. And then I was fine. And then I replaced it with something else that I'm not attached to. Now I'm attached to it, but in a different way that's not like associated with pain and injury. But yeah.
Well, like, I mean, you basically threw out all your own teddy bears. Like, all your exercise teddy bears, you threw them out the window yourself.
No, I cut them up. And then I was like, I tried to put them back together a little bit. And I was like, yeah, like, this isn't worth it. And then I threw them out. And then, like, I, like, got rid of even, like, the scent of it. Like, I took Febreze and I, like, sprayed it around. And then I vacuumed, like, 10 times. And then I cleaned with chlorine because I was like, if I smell a deadlift, it's like I don't even, like, did I tell you, like, I sold all my gym, like, I didn't sell all my gym equipment, but I sold, this is how screwed up it is. I sold, like, I used to have, like, 800 pounds of weight. Now I have 500 and whatever. I can max out, like, 585 on my deadlift. So I can't even do a 700-pound deadlift or anything above 600 where it kind of gets crazy. So, like, I knew. So that's the chlorine. It's like, get rid of all the weights, too. Bye. See ya.
So... And that makes sense. Like, it's kind of, you basically became what I do. Like I just kind of like, I'm on the outer fringes. I want to be strong. I want to like look strong, but I don't need to like push myself into a wall to get there kind of thing. Like to some degree, yeah, like effort matters and like intensity matters. But like your deadlifts were basically my spin classes. Like a couple years ago, you couldn't tear me away from a spin class. And then I've noticed that during like COVID, just so much stuff has changed. So many priorities have changed. I'm like, sometimes I watch videos. I'm like, I don't really need any of that anymore. Like, just give me a bike, just get my conditioning up, make sure I don't like have a heart attack or anything, and I'm good to go. Like, I don't need so much of what used to be my identity. So I can kind of relate to that whole experience with the deadlift. But I kind of want to know more about like what intrigued you with jiu-jitsu. Like, kind of talk a bit more about that.
Yeah, like, so I talk about getting rid of all my teddy bears. Like, I didn't want to get rid of myself. Because, like, regardless of whether it was deadlifting or strength, like, I'm a competitive person, and I do not want to give that up. Because, like, again, I'm a new father. I think, like, a lot of the things that I learned through sports and through competition and through training are very helpful. Like, the teaching lessons there, regardless of whether you have a coach, it's like, when I was a teacher, it's like the hidden curriculum. Like, the hidden curriculum of sports and competition is that you don't get a free pass. And like, you don't get, they give participation medals, but like a lot of the times to like be a starter or to win, like you have to like do the work. Yeah, you can show up and get a participation medal, but like you don't get the win, or like you don't get this, or you don't get that. You don't get a 700-pound deadlift unless you actually put the training in, unless you're like a freak athlete. In that case, like throw it out the window, but like there's not that many of those people. Jiu-jitsu was something I was interested in as a kid. In high school, like my buddy, Andrew Martin, he's actually, I don't know if he's listening to this, but he's from St. Albert area, so he probably seen fitness stuff he's into. But he took me to a jiu-jitsu class, and it was awesome. Like, I loved it. But I had just made the provincial team for football, and like I had a scholarship riding on it. And so it was just like, I was like, I get injured here, and I liked football, and I like have a future in it. And so I didn't do it, and so I put it on the back burner. And then Jeff Hecht, you probably know Jeff, like he's been around involved.
Yeah, we did one of our CamFit courses together. Fun fact. So good times.
Yeah, so shout out to Jeff. I played football with Jeff for the longest time, and we used to be training partners at the speed and strength place we'd have. So he'd come home for summers and we'd train together. And it was highly respect his opinion on stuff and like what he does, because we're kind of similar in the sense like we're super competitive. He's a little bit crazier than me, so that's a fun fact. Jeff's super crazy, but he's someone I respect in terms of like his sport choices and stuff. And he had an Instagram video of him, or maybe it was a picture of him getting his blue belt. And I was like, and Jeff and I are fairly close. Like we keep tabs on each other. And so I messaged him and I was like, yo, and I'm probably like the loser person that everyone kind of hears about. And they're like, oh, like they don't know what they're getting into. But like, I wanted to ask some questions because I was already interested for a while of doing it because of COVID and trying to replace something. I was like, I'm missing something. And so it was that. And then he got me kind of interested in like, okay, I could do this. How could I fit this in my schedule? And essentially I was scared to do it more or less because like, again, all the same reasons, injury, yada, 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 being new at something, sucking at something that like Jeff was like, listen, it's like a long road. So like get prepared. And that's why I did it. Because essentially that's exactly what I want. I want something that's hard. I want something that takes a lot of effort. I want something that you don't get a free pass. And I wanted something that you don't just like walk in and like you earn people's respect. Like because I was a football player in college and all this stuff, it's like there's a certain expectation. There's not that when you go there. Like they almost like value that. It's like, yeah, let's show this dude he can't like do anything. And so it was perfect for my mindset to do that. And then I just fell in love with it because again, in that type of environment, I generally thrive on that type of stuff because I get interested and because I suck, and having a team and having a coach, like being so stupid at something and then having like the teacher or professor or whatever that like it's Luke Harris, but he's like, I just go by Luke, but like someone who said, hey, you like that, like this happened just this week. He was like, essentially we were doing this like throwing drill and he's like, yeah, you need to do this, this, and this. And it was like all the main teaching points because I was doing it with a partner. And I was like, just say it's like complete shit. Like everything about that looks like shit. I like that because I'm not good at it. And so what do? You research anyways. It like fit everything that I was looking for. And that's why I did it, because again, trying to replace something, but I also want that. Like, you need something to drive you, and it checked all the boxes.
Yeah, I mean, that completely makes sense. And you kind of like alluded to doing something new. And so I'm going to dive right into it. Like, what was it like changing the first poopy diaper? Like, tell me a bit more about that experience.
You want to hear that story? Eh? This is the story. So like, a lot of people say you never, there's no right time to have a kid. You can't be prepared. I was like, yeah, fuck that. I can totally be prepared. And I was like, if I look and evaluate what I did, like I did a pretty good job, but I wasn't like, I hadn't changed any diapers, and I thought I was going to have some like practice time. And just the way the pregnancy went, like Andrea was just in pain, and so she couldn't do anything for the first few days. And like you're at the hospital, and like you don't have diapers, and they have cloth diapers and a nurse, and the nurse was basically like, "Here's how you change the diaper. Like I'm leaving." And I was like, "You leaving? This is like, what the fuck am I supposed to do?" And so like I did this stupid thing, and it was awful. Like it wasn't awful, but it was like I felt very similar to how I felt at jiu-jitsu. Like I didn't know anything. I sucked at it. I like don't know. Like I'm looking at YouTube videos and like, I just did it. But at that point, it's a little bit different because jiu-jitsu you can leave. You can't leave the baby because like I don't know if anyone's told you, like if you don't care for the baby, it dies. And so I was like, well, I guess I'm just doing this, and I just jumped right in. But it was like super, like it was like literally abrupt, like. And we had an older nurse, and she just wasn't having it. She's like, "Yeah, like I'm leaving." Okay.
That's so funny.
I just changed it. Like I literally just changed it, and I sucked at it for a while. And I would talk to the baby, be like, "Yeah, I'm sorry. Like I suck at it, and like I'll get better." And like you kind of just like, it was good. It was a very good moment for me because that's when I realized things had changed because like the onus was on me, and like I have help from Andrew, but in that moment the onus was on me. I'm like, oh damn, like I get it now. Like there's no like I can't just go take a break now. And I wasn't prepared for that, but I kind of was, but I felt it in the moment, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then we're gonna kind of like go into the relatability of your new role. Like there's going to be a lot of like trainers. I mean, I'm friends with a few trainers that have just started their dadding journey, and they're looking for pro tips. They want to know like how you do what you do. Like it might not be the best way to do it, but just like they might want the insider info on like efficiency throughout the day, how to stay jacked while also like keeping babies alive. How to integrate dog and baby into one household, etc.
And I'm going to preface this by saying I actually I have a very good relationship. I'm super privileged, and like my situation is like, yeah, it's built out of hard work, but I understand like I'm not a single parent, I'm not a single dad. Like I say it's not hard, and I understand the hardness of how it could be. I'm definitely not in that situation, but I think a big thing, like at least for us, initially was we didn't have like, so this is like pre-kid. I was very adamant that I didn't want children unless I was super ready to, because I didn't want to give up my life as much as it's privileged and all that stuff. It's like I thought I could do it in a way where I didn't have to give up my teddy bears, so to speak, like boating and going to the lake and enjoying family. And I didn't want to be the person, because again, I have some people throughout my life, like they would just not do anything, and they would avoid people, and they would keep it to their own little world, and like they wouldn't do stuff that was hard. I didn't want to do that. Like I wanted to afford being a parent, and I wanted to still afford to do the stuff that I wanted to do, and I didn't want to take a hit for that. So it was a lot of planning. So the big thing was I slowly we downsized and all the stuff we talked about last time, but that was in preparation for this, and we may have talked about that before. So, and I moved online all the way. Well, COVID hit. Sweet. So like I said, it all kind of happened. COVID hit. I had to close my gym down, and now I'm online. So sweet. Now I'm at home. And so I think if you can manage it, and again, this is not helpful for trainers because the schedule, as you know, is we work early in the mornings and we get off at like noon to 2 or 3. Sweet. No one's working then. Not that helpful, especially if you work at the gym physically and then you work at night. So my goal was, how do I at least create a bigger window? And I did that by working at home, but having a larger window so I could be present, because I also did not want to be present. And that's been super helpful. As one thing, in terms of the other stuff, like look, this is where this is crazy. I know I'm like talking a lot, but when before COVID, right, you had classes. You would go to classes. And like I don't know if that was just like a generational thing because like there was no information. But like I was like, screw that. Like, we can't do a class. And then they were like gonna do a Zoom one. And I was like, what the hell am I gonna learn on a Zoom class? And maybe that's me being total asshole, but I was like, I just went and read and I learned a lot of it. And honestly, I don't know if the classes would have helped prep for it because you really don't know anything. It's like reading about biochem and nutrition and thinking that you're going to be an expert on that. There's doctors, let them fucking deal with it. And then they tell you what to do anyways. So, but a big thing was reading and prepping for a lot of the pregnancy stuff, obviously before and after. But then how does that align with how much free time you have or whatever? And so this sounds like super coachy, but like I planned out a lot of this, like, and some of it didn't work, but having a second plan for the first plan if it didn't fail. So how that worked out for us was we realized sleep was going to be super important for Andrea, and then work was going to be super important for me, and I needed to sleep. And so long story short is because I'm home, I prepped to do a bottle feeding. And in my head, it was like, oh yeah, we'll do the one before bed because you can go to sleep early and then wake up early. And that didn't really work out because like the baby doesn't really wake up at predictable times. And so I was up till 3 a.m. Not that helpful when I got to wake up at 7 to do work. So we kind of switched that around, figured out a way where I could help out, and not just help out by being up when she's up. It was how do we both prioritize sleep and split the duties as opposed to us both freaking out and being zombies. That was probably the most important thing. Doing that in reality was easy, but it was also unpredictable in terms of how that looked. But the main idea and the main principle was very strong. And I think that helped. And obviously not everyone's gonna be in that situation, but I think that was probably the number one thing outside of pre-prepping my life to have those options. And that was a long-winded answer, but like it was basically pre-planning and like actually getting my shit together, And you've seen my growth. And then like having a good plan for the sleep, because the sleep was probably the most important for anyone who's had kids or is planning on it. Yeah, they talk about being zombies, but I didn't believe that you had to be a complete zombie. And so we were a little zombie, but like if you plan it, you can be like at least like at like 65% capacity, which is like way better than 20.
Well, I imagine like communication and like setting expectations and stuff makes a big difference too. Like, what would be your advice on that for anybody that just like can't seem to, like, sometimes people find themselves in a position where they feel like the world is out to get them, and then they realize that they're not really setting the expectations that they want, whether it's in a workplace or whether it's like no matter what scenario. Like what wisdom do you have to impart?
You listed literally all the reasons why people are super angry with life. My wife works in conflict management. She runs the team anyways. Like that's her job. And the short answer is learn how to have tough conversations, because if you don't, like, it won't get said, and then both sides will feel like pissed off generally, or they don't know what the problem is, so they just keep doing what they're doing, or they assume one thing about the other. And you can layer this on to all the shit that's happened since COVID. And like, I won't even get into it, but there's a lot of people either not saying anything or they're believing certain things when really it just took a conversation. And so that's the basic simple principle in any conflict management is well, having tough conversations, but doing it respectfully. And so my wife's really good at that, and she's probably more to blame for our success than I am, because like I'm pretty abrasive, but like I learn about this stuff, so I can try my best, and she teaches me. But it's definitely being able to say what you feel, but doing it respectfully so that the other person is not defensive. And I know that that's like kind of not in the realm of this discussion, but it kind of is. Like in a relationship, like if you don't have those conversations, it's going to get left unsaid and you're going to assume, and then we're now on different pages. Andrew and I have been really good at being mostly on the same page, except for when we're tired. We're tired, more so me, but she's had a few blow-ups. But those are normal blow-ups. They're not like fundamental basic principle blow-ups. They're like, I'm fucking tired, can you take care of the baby? That's okay. But like, if we had different opinions on what that meant, that would be a problem. So we've just been along the way, like having those conversations. And So that's part of the prep work coming up with this, is like working on, I guess, having that open line of communication. And it doesn't always work, but I mean, I think that's the main problem with any issue, period, with a lot of times. So yeah, is it important? Yeah, but it's like saying, hey, talking to and communicating is important, but without actually like defining what that means, no one ever does anything. So that's kind of, we do it, I guess.
Well, I mean, there's carryover to training and coaching too. Like, you're gonna be a way more effective coach if you're able to like breach those really tough conversations in like a way that's not so abrasive that the person ever wants to talk to you again. But it might be in a way where it's like some serious tough love. Like, we've got like mutual trainer friends that you've talked to that have enlightened them on like their nutrition and been a kind of a game changer kind of thing. So like when it comes to nutrition coaching, like what was the first moment that you realized that that was necessary, or does it come natural to you just based on like your personality or your background?
Honestly, it's probably a little bit of both. Like in nutrition, I'm dealing with vastly different people than I did prior to. So I'm dealing with the same people I did with training. So before training, I'm dealing with students, and a lot of times in my position, I was dealing with at-risk youth. And so, like dealing with those, it was like I'm an authority figure, so it was I guess it's not much different than coaching, but like there was like a little bit more weighing on the line, so I was a little bit more respectful, obviously, and like there's a little bit less you can do in certain circumstances. But and then prior to that, I was coaching high school football. So I mean, between teaching and coaching, like coaching a full high school team, like doing everything, like I was the head coach, so I had like so many duties. And I don't know if I talked about this before in the last podcast, or one of them was like, I'm dealing with like kids, parents leaving, and like people dying, and like kids crying about depression. Like I'm literally dealing with all that shit on top of coaching football, because that is coaching football. And I think that that's what a lot of it gets lost. So anyways, having those conversations in a way where like, you're not dealing with, hey, Sally, eat your carbs or whatever, right? Like that's not really life altering. But being in situations that are a lot more serious, I learned essentially how to be empathetic, so to speak, or at least learn where that's like helpful. And so it's not manipulative, but like understanding that like I can't say something crazy in this moment because like this person's actually hurting. And so taking at least a little bit of that, or at least realizing that there's a spectrum of that, that's helpful for having those conversations. And I would say less serious things, like you fighting at work is less serious than like your dad's an alcoholic. Maybe that's not everyone's opinion, but like that would be. And so you can learn to kind of dial it in. And so a lot of the times I'm really good naturally. So this is where the second part of it comes. I'm really good naturally at deflecting. It's like, I'll say like, hey, I'm going to be the asshole here and kind of joke about it. But like, they know it's coming. Cause like most people know what you're going to say. Like, I like to give people a lot of credit, and they understand. Like there's not a lot of ignorance, even though there is a little bit sometimes with science, but there's not ignorance in like the path. Like it's all pretty fucking simple in terms of nutrition and exercise and walking, like me learning about walking, like duh, but you know what I mean? But doing it in a respectful way where you can like, hey, prepare them. Hey, I'm going to be the asshole here. And like, I don't like to do this, but whatever. And then have that conversation I found has been really successful, but that might be because of how I look and how I am and how I talk. And so again, that's where it's personal to me and it's natural to how I do things. But I think that it's helpful, if that makes sense. So it's like a little bit of both. And then obviously learning about the stuff, having a wife that's like literally an expert at this stuff, and then reading about psychology and reading about coaching and then applying it and learning it and getting better and making mistakes. Like I've had really bad conversations, a lot of them, and I still have bad conversations. And I'm like, yeah, I probably dealt with that a little bit awful. Like I can't just use the same tactic all the time. And so it's just a refinement, and then you start to pick up stuff as you go.
Well, the thing that stood out to me a lot with what you were just sharing was like your teaching experience. I mean, like, people don't value their old jobs nearly enough. Like every job helps. Like if a person's sort of like in a phase in their life where they're just doing odd jobs, like everything that you do is going to contribute to your success in the future. Like every single like side job I've done, I've been like, holy crap, I learned something. I thought it was like a waste of time, but like it was actually valuable for the experience.
Yeah. And like weirdly, like my experience was hyper specific to the stuff I was going to deal with in fitness, because it was, like I said, it was less intense. It was like being thrown into like the NFL of shit problems you have to deal with, because like I was dealing with at-risk youth, and I say shit problems, I mean like it was just a lot at that age where I was dealing with. Like I was still a kid, like I was 26, 27, and I was at center high, and like a lot of it, like it's literally at-risk youth, second language learners. We have a lot of indigenous, and like a lot of people that did poorly in school or like were part of gangs and stuff. And like I would have a rap list of like I had hundreds of students, and I was part of a program where I'm dealing with a lot of it. And so I got to see a lot of it firsthand. And it didn't necessarily scare me, but like it hardened me to like, this is what the world looks like in this part of it. And like when we look at fitness problems, yeah, there's other stuff underlying a lot of it. If we look at like socioeconomic status and all that stuff, right? Race, whatever, gender. But to a lesser extent, when we're dealing with people's education and like careers, and like at that point they're aged 18 to 21 years old, they're at a very pivotal time in their life, and like it's just a lot different. When I'm dealing with fitness problems, I don't necessarily treat it as less serious, but like it's a lot easier than that. And so it's like if I'm just even like 30% good at that, I'm a good coach in the fitness realm, because I'm dealing with stuff on the daily, on the hour almost. And so it hardened me to like, yeah, this is like a walk in the park. And I don't feel like it's a walk in the park. It's not, but it's a lot less stressful than where I was at. And so I embrace it, because now I'm fairly proficient at this thing, and I get to do it at a way lesser level. It's like going from the NFL and going and playing in the CFL. It's like, well, like I'm going to do good. that's and I'm a shitty NFL player, and I'm a really good CFL player. So anyways, yeah.
That's funny. With regards to being a dog owner and a dad, like,
Yeah.
Penny's a good dog, so I mean that goes without saying. But like, what's the integration been there? Like, do they get along? Like, I can see that they seem to get along. Like, she kind of they look out for each other in a way. But talk about that a bit.
Sort of. This is like the same answer as my last. I haven't kid. I pre-planned this, and so like if you're gonna train a dog, like this is my personal opinion, but like I think you should be prepared, especially dogs, because they can't communicate the same way. You have to be ready to put the effort into training, and that's just my personal opinion. And I think a lot of people adopt dogs that they're not prepared for, and then that dog has a less than desirable life if they had someone who was prepared. And so I was super prepared, and like I knew I wasn't ready at that point to take on adoption. Like we had fostered puppies and stuff, so I knew kind of the process. We worked for Calican, local company that does small dogs from kill shelters in California. So if you want to do that, do that. But I trained the shit out of my dog, is what I'm saying. And so I have it pretty easy. That being said, I was kind of prepared for it, but Penny got like, not necessarily super like distant, but she was a lot unsure. And so she would stay pretty far away and just kind of sleep in like the couch or like our bedroom. And that was super weird. I wasn't prepared for her to like, and I don't know her feelings. I don't talk dog brain, but like she seemed like she's like, I know where I am in the pack, and it's a little bit lower now. And I think like she was staying up with Andrea, and now she doesn't do that. She's kind of learned, but she was really tired. And so I wasn't prepared for her to be like a shadow of her former self, but she had kind of adjusted differently than I thought, if that makes sense. And so my biggest thing was, how do I make her a priority? Obviously we're doing walks now, so that's helpful. She can go on walks. But like last night, like Andrew was super busy. She was cleaning, and it was a busy day with the kid. And I made time I got home from jiu-jitsu, and it was like almost dark, and I'm like, I got to take this dog out. And like really being, again, I bought this dog. I committed to this dog. And so like, I don't want to go for a walk right now and go throw the ball at the park. It's freaking 9:00 or whatever it was. But you do that because like, again, it's not your life. I don't want this dog to have a shitty life. So anyways, just making it a priority is the hard part. And so I don't know how she's integrating, to be honest. It seems like she's doing well. She like now like licks the baby and like hangs out, but she's not bad or aggressive. She's been like, super awesome. The baby has no clue what's going on. She's 10 weeks old, and she sees a furry thing and like it hits her sort of, and then she's like this is just another toy.
That's
I don't know
awesome.
what the baby thinks. Baby probably thinks it's like, yeah, this moving red thing of fur that I have no idea what the name of it is, because I don't have any language and I can't believe that yet. So Maybe I don't know what baby thinks.
Well, I think it goes back to the theme of like you get out what you put in. Like when it comes to strength training, like if you have like these expectations to get really, really strong, like you're gonna have to put in a lot of effort and figure out what effort looks like for you. And if you want to have like a really well behaved dog, it's gonna take a lot of like dedication and communication in dog ways, like however that looks. But yeah.
Well, and that goes like, and I sound like yeah, obviously it's really easy to be prepared and stuff, but it's like I didn't get a dog till I was graduated university, and I was in university for a long time because I was a shit student. So I was at university for 7.5 years, but I got 2 degrees, so I caught up. And so, anyways, the point is like I could have got a dog way earlier, and that dog had a shit life, but I really wanted to like do it right, if that makes sense. And so I delayed what I wanted to do it right, and I've continued to do that because that's what I believe. And again, I know not everyone's in that situation, but I think if you go and purchase a dog and like you're willing to commit to that, like that's a bigger choice than most people give it credit for. And I think that is the problem. Like they're not prepared because like it's really easy to buy a dog. You literally walk in, like ours, we had to go on a wait list because it was like a golden doodle and they're like really popular bougie dogs. But like you can walk to a shelter right now and like, yeah, they do background checks and like most people aren't psychopaths. So they'll give you a dog for the most part. But like most of them aren't prepared, in my opinion. And so that goes without saying, but like I've tried to take that route for most things because I know what the opposite end looks like because I see examples everywhere. Like that dog is bad. Like that's a bad dog. Your dog bit someone. Like I don't want to do that because like that's someone's like that's a lot. Like, that dog is getting put down. I do not want to be responsible for that. So I took that path with the stuff I've done, and I feel like that's the right way. But someone can challenge me, I guess. But
no, it all makes sense.
You shouldn't be prepared for stuff because it has implications on your life. Most people don't have that inner conversation where I just try to. It's really helpful. And that's sarcasm, passive aggressive, but I'm serious. Like I don't like that about dog ownership a lot of times is because it ultimately falling on dog's life, quality of life. And that sucks.
Well, it completely kind of confirms my own like thoughts about dog ownership. Like it would have been great to have a dog during this pandemic, me living alone. But at the same time, it's like, I want to be ready and I'm not ready yet. There's a lot of like things that I want to line up, things that I want to like be prepared for. And so like, I can see that coming up, but, just it makes sense, and I think it can be applied to any big steps that people make. Like some people want to start up a brick and mortar gym, some people want to be like a branded online trainer, and like sometimes it just you can be on your way to that, but you don't have to make the big step until you're ready, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like you can still build the bricks behind the scenes, get the knowledge, do the research, all that stuff.
Well, that's the nature of coaching. And so like we talk about experience and stuff, and like you can sort of see that you can apply these concepts to a lot of things. But a lot of the main element of human nature is again, they don't want to delay gratification, especially when like we're designed evolutionarily to like, well, if there's honey there, I'm going to eat all the honey, and like it's good and it's like it fills me and satiates me, yada yada yada. But like if you tell someone like, hey, don't, like when they're a starving indigenous Hadza tribe, like if there's food, like they're gonna fucking eat it. And so you take that with anything. It's like if I could go buy a dog, you're gonna like it's hard to not do that. It's hard to delay gratification, especially in a world where it's super easy to gratify yourself instantly. And so I've just tried to take that concept, and I'm not best at that. Like let's have tattoos and stuff. Like I'm very there's a lot of things where I don't apply that concept, but in terms of big rocks and stuff that has big implications, like dog ownership, like my finances, like having a child, even training to a lesser extent, but health, right? I try to take that because, again, it's really easy to go off the path because it's so easy to. Like we've created a world where we can literally do whatever we want. It's hard to hold back and do the hard thing. So I've just tried to do that, and I've been naturally good at that. I don't know where I got that from, but yeah, maybe it's because I've been injured all the time and I've had to claw my way back. But like, if I didn't do things right, I wasn't successful. So I just kind of naturally, intuitively learned. And then when I went and read about it, I'm like, oh, okay, good. It's a good thing I was like a complete dummy growing up because like my life might look vastly different. And so again, I don't know where that pivotal moment was, but I've been doing it for a while.
So, taking a quick segue, you do a lot of stuff with Jeb Stewart Johnston. Like,
Yeah, my
you
boy.
are attached. It's like you are one person sometimes. The number of times I've tagged you both in Instagram stuff, and it's like when there's things that Jeb did that you didn't do, it takes everything in me to not tag you because I'm like, well, I can't just not tag Dean. Like, but I just kind of want to know, how did that start? Where is that headed? What's it like? Tell us all about that bromance.
Oh man, Jeb's someone I highly respect, and like, I don't know if it was always like that because we didn't really know each other, but we bonded over a lot of this stuff we're talking about. Like, a lot of it started with training and like some of the advanced stuff that we were learning, and then a lot of the psychology aspect stuff Jeb's really into, and so I guess we would have bonded over coaching experience in psychology and human nature and evolution and all this stuff, and how does it apply to this stuff, and it's just essentially like we see things very similar. But we're also very different. And so I actually learned a lot from Jeb. And Jeb is willing to call me out, probably because he's from New York and he calls out everyone. He's very abrasive, even though he's like the most well-spoken. And I've said this on our podcast. It's like, I don't know why people think Jeb's so nice. Jeb's like the meanest individual on this planet. He's just really good at speaking in a way that everyone is hoodwinked. But he's pretty good at calling me out my shit. So he's actually helped refine or at least explain a lot of what we do. And so there's a lot of it where we've just bonded over coaching and similar experience. But I say similar experience. My life is vastly different from Jeb's. I almost learn more from Jeb's vast experience that I don't know how much he divulged to, but Jeb's like a vampire. He's lived like fucking 10 different lives. And I'm like, how old are you? You're only 40? Like, what? You've done more than I've done for like my whole lifetime in like one of your lifetimes. And so it's nice when you have a guy like that because I get better being around him, but we also see things very similar. So it's, I don't know. It's just like there's certain people that you just kind of connect with. And yeah, like, so personally, if Jeb likes me, I'm super pumped because like my filter now, and I don't know if you've had Mike Dole on here, but Mike and I's filter for the things that we say and think, I was like, what would Jeb say? And if it passes Jeb's filter at least a little bit, like I'm like, okay, I'm on the right path. Even though I don't believe everything Jeb does is like the best. Generally, Jeb's pretty critical. So if it can pass that, I'm like on the right play, so to speak. And so, yeah, that's Jeb.
So you guys work together on your podcast. Any other big things on the horizon for you guys, or just still kind of things that are a work in progress?
Yeah, I know you know this answer. We're writing a book. Did you ever have Mike T. Nelson on?
Not yet.
Yeah. Not yet? Okay. I knew you should. But he's super busy. But anyways, we're all friends through Costa Rica and Ben House and a lot of stuff we do. So, and Mike's a pretty close friend of mine as well. And so with the nutrition stuff we're doing and high flux idea, a lot of it we're doing on the treadmill stuff, just more activity, more food. How do you do diet differently? How do you maintain weight loss long term without it being crazy, dumb bullshit myth stuff that everyone talks about where they just eat less forever and it doesn't work. And they're like, oh my God, diets don't work. We do shit. But anyways, putting that in a book format is kind of our side project that we're kind of working on. Just because oddly enough, no one really talks about it, and I'm super surprised. And so, yeah, we're just kind of refining that concept through our coaching. We have a large pool of people that we work with, and so that experience, more or less in a book, is kind of what we're working on. But again, I don't know when that fleshes out. It's been kind of nice because it gives us something to, I guess, push, very similar to jiu-jitsu and training, but do it so in our career so that it's not just like work. It's like we're trying to create something and refine something and do something as opposed to just bitch about something. And so
that makes sense.
I don't know when that comes, and I don't know the name. I want the name to be Get Fluxed, #GetFluxed, as a reference to, and I'll say it, get fucked. But I don't know if that's going to work. It might be more Amish. It probably won't be any of those. But if I have my way, it's Get Fluxed.
Makes sense. And I mean, to keep us kind of on track, because we tend to run on, and I have a feeling I'll have you back in like a year's time for sure.
Yeah. We've been good though. I swear.
What's that?
We've been good today.
Oh yeah. Like we've been well behaved. Yeah. If you were to give the audience a challenge for the day. And like we're in totally different times. So you got to be a little bit creative with your challenges. Like I've heard some things repeated. There's got to be something unique to you that only you would advise a podcast audience to do. So what would it be?
Easy. And I was thinking about this before because I was getting ready for, I'm not getting ready. I was getting my coffee and I'm like, oh fuck, Chris is going to ask me about the challenge. My challenge, and this is like, I'll insert my bias here, that I don't really give a shit about whatever excuses you have because it's super easy. Get more movement, whatever this is. And this is what I tell my clients. I'm like, I'm not looking for you to be the best stepper possible. Like, obviously you have a life, you have kids, whatever, work, life's busy, life's stressful. I want you to optimize how much movement you can get throughout the day in any form. Be creative. And so I get a lot of people, well, how do I get more movement? I'm like, well, you fucking walk. And as horrible as that sounds, 1 step's more than 0, 10 steps more than 1, 100 is more than 10. It's a very easy metric to track. Whether if you have a cell phone, you can do it, no excuses. Just look to get more than you're currently getting. And if you don't know how much you're currently getting, track how much you're getting. If you don't think about it, whether it's a phone or tracker. And I thought about this just like literally like right before you asked. Optimize and get more. I don't care what that is, but there's no excuse, and it kills a million birds with one stone. Like a million. It's like if I was going to be a guru about one thing, it's like people need to move more because of the world we live in, not because of some fucking weight loss bullshit. You need to be stronger, be outside. It's like we live in a very modern environment that we don't get enough movement. And again, it's a catch-all, but there's so many benefits that I don't even need to explain it to people. So do more, and it's not that hard. Even though it can be hard, figure it out.
That makes sense. And with that being said, that'll wrap it up for us today. So thank you so much for coming back on the show.
Yeah, no problem. And I hope you can find a soundbite there because I swore. And I know you have good video editing skills, so you can figure that out now. So, but yeah, it was good. It was good.